So let's now welcome home this illustrious grandson of Lincoln University, our 2025 commencement speaker, the Honorable Governor of Maryland, Wes Moore.
Lincoln, what's going on? Man, God is good. And all the time. Yes, now. Provost Joseph, thank you so much for the beautiful introduction and for the leadership, and to President Allen. I mean, what can I say? President Allen, you just lead with such remarkable grace and distinction, and I'm thankful to call you not just a friend, but a partner inside this work. Thank you for this invitation to have me here this morning. Thank you so much. And also to Chair Bruce, and to all of the Board of Trustees, and to the staff, and to the faculty, and everybody here, I cannot tell you enough what an honor it is, and what a joy it is to come home. And I say that because to be here and as part of this class of 2025, and first of all, big shout outs to the class of 2025 and congratulations on everything you all continue to do. And I'm really proud of this class because if there's something that I know, is that graduations are not a given. They don't just happen. That I know that for some of you, you started here 4 years ago. For some of you, you started here a little longer than that. That for some of you, you came and you transferred in. For some of you, even walking onto a college campus was not a given as you were coming up. That for some of you, you were trying to juggle 2 majors as you were completing, and for some of you, you were trying to juggle 2 jobs as you were completing. And so to the entire class of 2025, I say with deep pride, congratulations, you have earned this day, and this is your day to celebrate and be celebrated. It's a celebration of your work, it's a celebration of your persistence, but also it's a celebration of the shoulders that you stand on. And I do want to share a little bit about some of the shoulders that I know I stand on. Because for me, this is a pretty easy assignment because I had some pretty broad shoulders that I know I stand on right now. I'm proud of the fact that I know, I have a lot of family here today. A lot of my family came through to watch you celebrate. Hey, what's going on, family? I got a lot of family here, and I'm really proud to have them here because, first of all, I want them to be here to watch me become a doctor because I'm expect everyone to call me doctor from now on. They're not going to call me doctor. But also, it's important to have them here because the connection to Lincoln University is deeper than that for us. Because I am very clear, you cannot understand my journey if you do not understand Lincoln University. And while I know that I am probably the most improbable governor in this entire country, and again, not just because of my own personal past, but because of the past of my state, that I am the governor of a state that was the birthplace of redlining. That I'm the governor of a state that is home to some of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. That I literally right now work in an office building that was built by the hands of enslaved people. That I work in a building that is just down the street from one of this country's first and largest slave ports. This journey was not predestined. Yet I still stand before you as the first black governor of Maryland and only the 3rd black governor ever elected in the history of the United States of America. But I stand here not just because Lincoln University is one of the premier institutions of higher education in this country. It's because this school created a way for me. Because you created a way for James Joshua Thomas, my grandfather, who was born in South Carolina, was a child of Jamaican immigrants who were new to the United States. Yeah, Nayardi. But when my grandfather was just a child, when he was just a toddler, he and his parents fled back to Jamaica because they were chased away by the Ku Klux Klan. Because my great-grandfather was a minister, and he was a vocal minister. He was the type of minister that didn't just teach the Word of God, but he expected people who were here on earth to act accordingly as well. And the truth is, we're talking about a time when being black and outspoken was a crime, even if it wasn't on the books. So in the middle of the night, after threats from the Klan, my family fled. And despite the fact that my grandfather was just a boy at the time, he never forgot that moment that one of his first memories was watching this country reject him. Watching this country reject him from something that should have been a point of pride and not a point of prejudice. And many members of my family and many members of my extended family, they vowed to never return to this country, and many members have not, and still live in Jamaica. But James Thomas loved this country too much to let the cruelty of others determine his destination. In fact, I always say, in all of his humility, he would always say, "This country will be incomplete without me." So he came back, and the place that first welcomed him in the United States of America was this great institution of higher education called Lincoln University. Where my grandfather came here to Lincoln University, met lifelong friends, and eventually he became the first black minister in the history of the Dutch Reformed Church, following in the steps of his father. And when he became a minister, the same threats that were coming to my great-grandfather started coming to him, but my grandfather stuck. And even though he died at the age of 87, while I was serving overseas in Afghanistan, this is a man who had a deep Jamaican accent his entire life, and maybe was the most patriotic American I've ever met in my entire life. Because my grandfather was able to chart an unusual path to go from being an American exile to an American patriot. And I know that I often ask myself, what would make him come back, despite the fact that those are some of his earliest memories of this country. And my grandfather's journey actually helps to underscore some very complicated feelings that I know that I and many people do have about this country. He taught me that you will find lessons not just about national pride or national spirit, but you will find lessons in his story about what it actually means to be an American. That first, he taught me that patriotism is not and it cannot be a passive activity, because the love of your country will be tested, both in big ways and small. But patriotism is a responsibility of a lifetime. Second, he taught me that patriotism is not a belief that your country is perfect, nor is it an understanding that your country has ever been perfect, because loving your country, that being an American has always come with struggle and sacrifice. And I can tell you, struggling, for someone who's been married for 18 years, struggle and sacrifice is a real thing. But it's worth fighting for. And third, He taught me that skepticism about your country is justified. And you should always keep skepticism as your companion, but it should just never be your captor. Let the hard truths that you've learned about America be guides towards a better future and not grudges that will keep you in the past. And I've tried to live in accordance of his lessons. And just as I stand here as part of my grandfather's legacy, so are all of you. Because the same hope and pride that he had in my journey was the same hope that he had in yours. That you, this class, you are the living custodians of our nation's past, and you are the architects of its present, and the relationship that you will build with this country will help determine the future of what this country hopes for. Because in many ways, our country is just deeply divided right now into these two camps. But it's not left versus right, it's not red versus blue. It's a divide between those who will use patriotism as a club to beat others, and a divide of those who feel ashamed to bear the flag. Between those who think that loving America means hating half of the people in it, and those who allow the cynicism of our nation's history to obscure our aspirations. That we've been told by one group that America is perfect. We've been told by another group that America is irredeemable. It's a binary that leaves no room for people like my grandfather. A man who saw evil, but who still had the courage to claim his piece of the American dream. It's a binary that leaves no room for someone like me. A boy who felt handcuffs on his wrist by the time I was 11 years old because I grew up in a community that was over-policed, but who also now stands in front of you as the chief executive of his state. It's a binary that takes the easy way out. Because it's easy to love a country when you reject the need for self-explanation and self-examination. It's easy to rail against a country when you're unwilling to be a part of its betterment. The hard part is being honest about our flaws and being courageous enough to be the ones who are willing to address it. We need to think beyond these old binaries of moral purity as a real metric that defines this country. That real patriotism is neither waving a victory flag, nor is it waving a white flag. That real patriotism is understanding that every fingerprint is actually going to matter. And I'll close with this about why Lincoln University becomes so important in that conversation right now. Because there's few institutions that embody this more than Lincoln University. I would just remind the people who question whether or not an institution like this can adapt inside this moment, I would remind them that Lincoln University was founded in a moment like this. That this school received its charter in 1854. This school received its charter at a time when our nation's fabric was being tested and it wasn't entirely clear how this nation would end up. That this school received its charter at a time when our country didn't even yet view African Americans as 3/5 of a man, because back then, for most Americans, even that seemed generous. And still, in the middle of so much division and chaos, your founders came together and created something that was needed and enduring. Lincoln University. The story of Lincoln is a story of an abiding love. And I know that Lincoln was built for a moment like this because Lincoln was built in a moment like this. And that's why you're so needed. That's why your graduates are needed. That's why people like Drake Smith is so needed. Where you at, Drake? Drake Smith is a public servant. Drake Smith is a patriot. Drake Smith is a Christian. He is a family man, and he is a Marylander. And I'm very clear, I'm just keeping the seat warm for you, brother. That's all I'm doing. Where Drake helped to organize and lead a 3-day march and successfully demanded the release of millions of dollars of funding for Lincoln University. And now he's on his way to divinity school. I know that Jordan Hall is a patriot. Where you at, Jordan? That Jordan came to Lincoln interested in psychology, but a psychology professor, Dr. Linton Williams, shout out Dr. Williams, convinced him to consider entrepreneurship instead, and he joined the student incubator and eventually became its manager. In the fall, he will join the team at Opaque Institute for Economic Development while studying on a full scholarship. Congratulations, Jordan. I know that Valerie Otutu is a patriot. Valerie, where you at? What's going on, Valerie? Valerie was born in Nigeria, but she came to the United States because she knew this country, like my grandfather said, would be incomplete without you. And today she graduates with a degree in computer science and has accepted a full-time position at one of America's great Fortune 500 companies. Congratulations, Valerie. We are a nation of patriots who serve when the mission is hard and who serve when the destination is uncertain. Because making America great doesn't mean telling people you're not wanted. Making America great doesn't mean saying that you're not needed. Making America great means telling people the ambitions of this country would be incomplete without your help. It is a true legacy of the soldiers and the builders and the preachers and the teachers. It's a legacy of the veterans and the ministers who prayed for our success. It's a legacy of the prosecutors who kept our communities safe, the public defenders who watched over all, the professors who inspired our children. It's a legacy of people who marched and who prayed and who voted and who organized so we can make it to this point. And yes, it is the legacy of a proud Lincoln alum, Reverend Dr. James Joshua Thomas, who was never invited to the Maryland State Capitol, but whose pastoral shawl now proudly sits framed on the walls of his 63rd governor. So class of 2025, today and every day, we give thanks to those who came before us. We give thanks for those who might not have known us or might not have known our names, but they woke up every morning and fought for the hope of us. We give thanks because the future prays that you will work on behalf of the hope of our future, the same way the ancestors were willing to work on behalf of us. So as you take these next steps, all I ask is this: live in such a way that when you hand off this country to the next generation, your descendants will welcome you and they will say that we understood the assignment and can ever do. So God bless you, congratulations, keep leading, keep growing, and keep making us all proud in everything that you do. God bless you guys, and congratulations 2025.